Hello, Scrufftards. Welcome back to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And my god, time flies. This will be my second video for the month. Things are slowing down, but yeah, who knows? Things may pick up. Anyway, in this video, I figured we would take a look at some rumblings from down in Ukraine concerning the Swedish Brigade and the possibility of the 21st Mechanized, the Swedish Brigade, counterattacking the Russians. So what is the Swedish Brigade? Well, it is the 21st Mechanized Brigade down in Ukraine. And they are the ones operating the STRV-122s and a big batch of CV-90s. Other brigades are also using the CV-90s, but as far as I can tell, it is the 21st Mechanized that are using the STRV-122s. So they are basically the brigade that is relying the most on Swedish equipment. No archers in this brigade. They are part of the 45th, I believe, Artillery Brigade, a support unit operating in the same area as the 21st Mechanized. And where can we find the 21st Mechanized? Well, we can find them up in the north of Ukraine, along the northern section of the front line, more specifically in and around the town of Terny that the Russians have been pushing towards for the last couple of months. And the 21st Mechanized have been fighting on the front line for months on end, relying on the SRV-122s and the CV-90s to hold the Russians at bay as best they can. And it's not without issues. The Russians, they have steadily been pushing towards Terny. They have taken important windbreaks, and they have eventually gained access to two vital valley systems that will provide Russians with cover and gives them access, if they grab the valleys, gives them access to Terny and the vital bridges in and around Terny. And this is where the 21st Mechanized is putting up stiff resistance, trying to hold the line and denying Russia the ability to reach these vital bridges around Terny. But despite Russia having had some successes of late in the area, things seems to be indicating that things may be turning around, if ever so slightly, and that is what I want to take a look at. And here we have the ISW map, their 3D map to be more precise. And here you have the valleys that the Russians are trying to push through to reach Terny. And what does the ISW map show? Well, Ukrainian counterattacks here and also down here. But this one here is kind of interesting. Not sure how this works, to be honest, because if you take a look at this from a different angle, there's nothing but big, wide open farmland. Now this is a ridge line here that falls down this way and falls down this way into these valleys. So this is the crest of the ridge. So maybe there's terrain features here that Ukrainians can exploit to advance along, and that has allowed them to make this push here towards the valley. But this is what ISW is telling us, that the Ukrainians have made a push down this way, moved around the Russians and pushed down towards the valley over here. And if we zoom in and take a look from the Russian perspective from the east, this is the valley. And here you can see that the Ukrainians have, according to ISW, pushed in towards the valley. And I mean, it seems fairly significant. If they grab the high ground up here, they can open fire on any Russian trying to support the front line over here, right? So if they grab this, it's going to be difficult for Russia to move supplies and move reinforcements into the fight further west in the valley. So not insignificant at all, if it's true. And when you later put it all together with other maps and details, it paints an interesting picture. And because here we have deep state, and this is on the 9th of April, you can see here the front line, and by the 15th, well, this change happened on the 10th or 11th. By the 15th, it's still the same. You can see here a change in the mapping. Russia has been forced back, and from this perspective, it looks like flat farmland, but this is actually a huge ridge line, just like up here. This is where the ISW map said that Ukraine had pushed in. Could be indicated by this line along the map here. So this is also a ridge line, a huge ridge that then falls off into these two valleys. And according to Deep State, Ukraine has managed to push Russia back a bit on the top of the ridge here. And as we can see here, you have the windbreak here, and you have the valley and the tree line here, so windbreak. And this is the valley and the tree line I was talking about. That means that Russia has lost ground up here. As you can see here, this is the crest of the ridge, and it then falls down into these valleys, and it falls down into this valley. So here, Russia has lost territory, and not sure how. Maybe it's just heavy drone activity that has forced Russia to fall back, which should mean that they don't have any real ability to threaten Ukrainians in the windbreak here. So the significance for the fighting going on in valleys, not sure, but it does tell us that Russia has been forced back, just like the ISW map has shown us. You can barely see it up here, I think, that the Russians have lost territory in this area up here as well. So, wouldn't that be down here? Yeah, and that's, yeah, my bad. The ISW push from Ukraine should be up here, which should be here, outside of this image here. So over here, ISW shows that Ukraine has made some gains. Deep State shows that Ukraine has made some gains here on the top of this ridge here. And on top of that, we have a YouTube channel reporting from Ukraine, showing us his own map of how far Ukraine has pushed the Russians back, and slightly more optimistic than Deep State and ISW, but he claims that there is geolocated footage of combat where Ukraine has actually pushed Russia back, and he is basing his map on those sources. So I will provide a link to his video, so click it, check it out, and hear what he has to say and what he bases his maps on. So do that after I'm finished or right away. But whatever you do, click the link and check it out. It's interesting. So all in all, we have 3 maps basically showing us that Ukraine has slowly but surely started to push back against the Russians here outside of Terny. ISW has shown us that the Ukraine has pushed down, tried to push in behind the Russians. Deep State has shown us that the Ukrainians have pushed Russia back right smack in the middle of the front line. And then we have this YouTube map showing us that Ukraine has, well, apparently pushed Russia back significantly. More importantly, if his sources are true, it should indicate that we are seeing combat further back on the map, further east, possibly hinting that Russia is not in control of all the red we're seeing. Maybe it is more of neutral territory than we first believed it to be, if that makes sense. So whatever, I think all in all, should indicate it's showing us that in this area, Ukraine is pushing back, gaining territory over here, gaining territory over here, and potentially even gaining territory down in the valleys, putting pressure on the Russians. Maybe they are not this as successful as this map shows us, but overall, it would appear as if in this area where we have the CV90s, where we have the SRE-122s, Ukraine is pushing back and taking the fight to Russia. That's it. That's all I have for you this time around. I think it's kind of interesting. We're hearing all the reports from outside of Avdiivka where the Russians have momentum at the moment. But it would appear as if in this area outside of Terny, Ukraine is attacking Russia rather than defending. We'll see what happens, if there's anything to it, or if this is just the natural tides of warfare, the ebb and flow of combat, or if it's actually Ukraine slowly gaining momentum outside of Terny and potentially the beginning of pushing Russia back in this area. So who knows? We'll see. Whatever the case, as always, gå på marsch, Ukraine. Give them hell.